Welcome into part two of our conversation with Derrick Dukes, AWA Unleashed, again, the preeminent podcast dedicated to the American Wrestling Association. And you see on the screen, my name is Chris Tubbs. You know who I am. And you also know who this guy is, as I'm going to bring in Mick Karch. And Mick, we had so much fun. We had to break it into two because these stories that Derrick Dukes is telling, I mean, these are incredible stories. These are ones that this is what you live for when you put together a project like this.
Well, the thing of it is, wrestling fans see the glamorous side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
They see the glitz. They see the pyro. They see the $500,000 TV production. They don't see what Derrick and I saw back, 30 some years ago at Ropers and Fridley, the snake pit, as I called it, for $50 or $100 with people crawling all over each other, trying to get to the wrestlers fighting over into the bar, pouring a drink over a guy's head and what have you. And, those 12, 13-hour road trips to Winnipeg and so on and so forth. So Derrick was there, and I'm just blown away by the fact that it is that long ago. I mean, that's what really gets me. Dukester and I are sharing these stories, and hopefully everybody is getting kind of a taste of what it was like back then. But then it's kind of heartbreaking for me, too, because I think I remember this like it was yesterday, and my God, this is almost 4 decades ago.
But isn't that a good thing? Isn't that a good thing, though, when you guys remember things like that? Like, you remember them fondly.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't trade the memories for the world. So Derrick Dukes, and, I said last week, great friend of mine. So this is a real kick. So we're going to pick it up right now, bring it back in the Dukester with part number 2. And Derrick, where I'm going to pick up here is just before you had the transition to the AWA. Now, there were a lot of guys that you were working with at Ropers and Fridley or up in Winnipeg that coincidentally made the transition to the AWA along with you. And I'm talking about, Ricky Rice. I'm talking about Larry Cameron, Soldan Yustinov. The guys that you were wrestling with at Ropers and Fridley, all of a sudden, here's this door open to the AWA. How did that happen?
Well, first of all, I call him Soul Daddy. Soul Daddy, Russian Crusher, he went to the AWA, and him and Ricky were close, so he got Ricky in. Ricky tried getting me in, but I can't. Okay, John Paul came back, so they were using John Paul and Ricky, and then how I got in was Wahoo was going to use me to do jobs, I believe up in a show up in way at Minot. Remember that? I said, well, I can't make it too short of a notice, so I didn't go. But it got. I would go to the matches with Ricky and John Paul, but they didn't use me. But it happened strange. What happened was, Mick, Rob Russin was working in the office there at the AWA. And so Rob had a tour to Europe. But apparently Vern says, look, that's not enough money for that tour. I'm not sure if this is correct. So he didn't want to send the AWA guys there. So Rob, who I met through Ray Webby. Ray Webby is the one that I met. Rob showed up at a show we were doing out there at the Holiday Inn out there by 3M and Maplewood, and so he said, "Look, I'm going to take these guys." They took him. He wanted Ricky because Ricky is Top Guns, and the Terminators. And then, then he had the rest of the guys were some from out east, and then you had Wendy Richter, Bambi, Peggy Lee, the farmer's daughter, I forgot her name. She was Brandy May or whatever. And so I went. They talked Ricky out of going. Dave DeBeers says, "Listen, we're going to go back next month. You just go with this group. Don't." And so Johnny Love took Ricky's spot. But what happened was before I left for the tour to Europe, so the Terminators and myself and Johnny Love, Rob had me come in and do an interview with Vern and Greg Gagne. And so I did an interview and they asked me what, we went through the whole spill, and, I said, well, I just, like to work for you. And I see there's not a black wrestler here, which I don't know if I should have said that, but I thought that was good in the interview, but I don't think that was good to say later as I thought about it. But when I watched it, the guy I did, that was my goal to get in there,
Yeah.
So they go, okay, well we'll see what happens, kid, So off the tour I go. I don't remember how long we were gone, month and a half. I can't remember, 4 weeks. I can't. So something happens as I'm coming back. Something happened. We had to end up staying in New York instead of getting back to me. Something happened, so I was a day late getting back home. And so I got back home. I was just tired, because that's that was the longest tour I'd been on, So we were all over. We weren't like when I worked for Otto. We sit in a spot for a month. We were like every day, and then we were different countries, and we're just moving around. France, Europe, Austria, Germany, Denmark, all kind of places. So I get back home, and I get some rest. I go, oh man, I got a few bucks in my pocket, and I think I was putting a radio on my motorcycle or my car. I could buy a new radio for my motor. I think it was motorcycle. And my roommate comes running out, goes, Derrick, somebody says you got to go back to the airport. I ain't going back to no airport. I just got off the plane. No. They said you got to go back. You better take this phone call. What? No, it's late in the day. So I don't know, it's just late now. I get back, I asked her, and it's Rob. I said, look, you got to catch a plane in the morning. It's in a few hours here. And so they want you in Las Vegas. And boy, did my face light up, boy. I couldn't believe it. I'm going to be in the AWA. Oh, man, I was just on cloud nine. And then I flew there, and that's pretty much how I got in,
That
right like that.
That's so great, and I remember too. If we could get the a picture up here in just a second about a guy I want to talk to you specifically about. But I remember too, man, when I got the call from Greg Gagne and Greg said you want to do some announcing on the ESPN, I didn't care that the AWA was in its dying days or whatever. I was going to be on TV with the AWA, and so I know exactly how you're feeling or how you felt at the time. It's like, oh my God, superstardom.
Yeah.
A guy I want to talk to you about is somebody that I always felt was so underrated and so underused, and he had superstar written all over him. And I know that's a good friend of yours. And I'm talking about the late, great, lethal Larry Cameron. I had the honor, the pleasure of going on that Australian tour with you and Larry and so many others. What a tragedy that this guy, with all the talent that he had, and I mean he was oozing with talent, one of the greatest heels that I've ever seen in the business. His life was cut short, of course. You had a great friendship. Talk to me about Larry Cameron.
Well, Larry and I met camp. We didn't really talk to each other much at first. It took a little while because it was like, okay, there's another black. I figured out that's how it works. Bruiser Brody told me that. You know how that works. One of you in and one of you out. And I started laughing.
Wow.
As I thought about what he said as a kid, I'm going, yeah, that's why you usually see one in and one, that's one in, one out. I go, no, yeah. So, but then we got to be very good friends. And we had so many road trips together and we became so close. And, you know, I knew what we knew about Larry's heart because, well, let me go back. He's very talented. He ended up he worked in AEW a little bit before he went to he wanted to go to Calgary,
Right. Okay.
and he became a much better wrestler when he came back from Calgary. But he would get bad write-ups. I look at some of those sheets about he's limited, and Larry was old when he started. You know that. I want to say he was 38. Late. He was old.
Yeah.
Not for starting in the business. Yeah, that's late. And so, yeah, he went. And he was. I worked with him. He's real stiff at times, and so was I. So I can't say any different. But he also got a shot. I don't know if you know this, Mick. So what we would do to each other, we would pick up the phone, act like we were like WCW, WWF, and we would act like we were one of the promoters. Go, hey, I need you to do a show. We would just torture each other like that. And so one day they called him from Atlanta, and he thought it was me on the phone, and he kept saying, "Dukes, quit messing around." They kept saying, "This is." It was actually WCW. They needed him to take. I don't know if Butch Reed was hurt or Ron. So he had to go down there. He went down there for a week. Yeah, week with those guys. And I would have thought they would have found a spot for him. But that, I don't know. They didn't. But yeah, he was down there for, I don't want to say a week or so. And then they came back home. But yeah, he had, we knew of his heart issue because Larry and I forgot where we were, but we both failed when out east you had to take a test, and we both failed the heart test or something. So I come back home, I go, well, I went to my doctor, and he goes, well, your heart's beating too slow. And he goes, do you run a lot? Well, yeah. Well, I didn't run a lot, but I played basketball, at the gym after that. But Larry's heart was skipping beats. So my doctor overrode mine so I could wrestle, but they wouldn't override Larry's. And so Larry wasn't supposed to lift weights over 5 pounds. So he went to Europe. He went to work for Otto, and he got me over there. And we all do things. We've taken muscle enhancing drugs and steroids. That just hurts your heart even more. And I knew something was strange with Larry. I knew something was really strange because before I came back home from Otto's tour, Larry, I was in his caravan, and he told me, yeah, I'm going to give my car to my little girl. What is he talking about? What's he mean he's going to give his car to his little girl? She's, at that time, Chelsea was, I don't know, 2-3 years old, I think, maybe. What is he talking about? Well, I come back home. He stays there with his girlfriend. He comes back, goes back, starts the tour, and then I think, Mick, you interviewed me because you interviewed me at Roper's that night.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, you interviewed me at that, and I didn't know because I got a message on, I don't know, on my telephone. My buddy Mike, I was living with Mike Smith at the time, goes, hey man, Wade Keller left a message on the phone. Something's with Larry. I go, what? So I go do the show. And then I get a call from over in Europe. It's Mike, who was was Mantar in WWF, or he was Bruiser Gastineau over in Europe.
Sure,
He
sure.
said, Larry passed. Yeah, he passed away, and so yeah, it was really sad.
I
We had a
will.
lot of fun with Larry.
I'll never forget that night at Roper's, Dukester, when I walked into that locker room downstairs, and Eddie said, "You're not going to believe this. Larry just passed." And then I went upstairs, and like you say, I interviewed you, and I announced to the crowd that Larry had passed in Germany. Listening to what you're saying then, and that story about Larry and his daughter. So are you guessing then that Larry had an inkling that something either was around the corner, or he was going to be a short timer, or did he have some kind of a premonition? What's your take on it?
Well, I'm convinced he knew he was going to die. So we both used to talk about death a lot back then, but we would jokingly do it. When Larry stopped laughing about death, that's when I thought, man, maybe he's really concerned. And he was supposed to follow up with the doctor, and he's telling me he was, but I don't think he was. And when he said this, and as I thought about when he passed away, he said this to me one night: "That kid will be better off if I'm dead."
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and so, but the thing about it is, I said, Larry, I know you love your daughter, but man, you got like 8 kids. What about them? And I don't know how many kids he had. He had a bunch, and but I said, man, this, and then they were telling me, man, the next year when he was on that tour, he couldn't breathe. He would lay on the ground, and he lay and sometimes he'd be out in the rain after his match on all fours, hands and knees, and that's your heart when you're not getting enough oxygen, But you can't keep taking, not going to the doctor. You can't keep, you can't keep doing that. And when he said that kid would be better off if I'm dead, I go, oh boy. Yeah,
Wow.
I said he probably knew he was going to pass away,
My God.
What do you do,
Man. Well,
Wow.
it was such a kick to be on that Australian tour with you and Larry, and I think we got a pick coming up here of another guy that was on that tour by the name of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. If we have that picture ready, there we go. There's you and I and Mr. Wonderful in the ring at Australia's Wonderland, and of course Paul was working babyface on that tour. Paul was a hell of a guy. I remember I had to babysit his son Travis. I had to watch him in the catering department. To make sure he didn't get in trouble or what have you. But what a tour that was. Paul Orndorff there, of course, and we mentioned Larry and the Thunderfoots. David Isley and Gene Ligon and Hillbilly Cousin Luke, and of course our good friend Chief Jules Strongbow, Frankie Hill, and Kamala. I mean, my God, what a tour that was. And I will never be able to thank Rob Russin enough for bringing me along on that tour, let alone, remember they gave us the run of the merchandise stand one afternoon there at Australia's. They said, guys, go help yourself to merchandise.
Yeah, man, that's the best tour.
And best
ever.
There's our buddy Rob Russin. Hard to believe, Dukester, and talking about time frames. That's going on. That's 31 years, buddy. 31 years ago that we were there. So, time doesn't stop for anybody. I'm going to move ahead here a little bit because I know there's one topic of conversation, and I know, Chris, you want to get into this as well. As good as you were in the wrestling ring, Derrick Dukes, and you were good, you may be best known for one of the most controversial angles in the history of professional wrestling in the AWA. And of course, I'm talking about the situation with Colonel DeBeers.
Mm-hmm.
And people are still talking about it. And again, it's 30 years later. First of all, and I know Chris has some follow-up questions. Talk to me about your relationship with the Colonel, Adnan Al-Kaissie, Colonel DeBeers, outside of the ring. Did you get along with him? What was the relationship?
Yeah, I got along with Colonel. The one thing I noticed about Wright, and sometimes I would ride with him in a van, that we'd have to stop, after the show, we'd have to stop every 30 minutes because he only had one kidney. I go, Colonel, quit drinking all that beer, man. We ain't never going to get back to the hotel, wherever we were going. But he was, he was a great guy. I mean, he played a kind of racial thing, but we had fun with each other. I learned a lot from him. So I had a lot of fun with Easy Ed. And I told a story one after that match, the paint match. And I remember it was the same match over and over. And then I think I told the story before. One night, he was sick or something. He goes, listen, kid, you got to listen to me. You got to listen to me. I can't do much. And we were somewhere out east. And never in my life have been in a match where you sit in a rest hold that long. And I can't remember, the high spot might have been for me to reverse the figure 4. And the place just came unglued. But we were in a rest hold the whole match. I'd never been through that before. And so he ran out the ring, I believe, and he did the money gimmick where they had to pay him to get back in the ring. I think he took one bump and left. But yeah, I got along with Ed. He was a great guy, great teacher, and I hope he's doing well. I talked to one time Scott years ago. It might have been about 15. One time Scotty Zappa and the High Rollers guys, they used to go out to Vegas.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They got Colonel on the phone. Yeah, so I talked to Colonel on the phone. Might have been 15 years ago. Yeah, Easy Ed.
I saw the Colonel. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago at Cauliflower. He still looks good. You mentioned the Colonel and the High Rollers and Scotty Zappa in Las Vegas, and I remember at the casino, they'd be sitting at the bar probably about 10 o'clock at night, and I'd go upstairs and go to bed. What kind of a social life do I have? And I would come downstairs at about 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and they were still there. They were still sitting at the bar. It was always Jerry Anderson who, Jerry was passed out on the bar. He didn't know where the hell he was. But Sterling and Colonel, they hung in there pretty good. Chris and I have talked about this angle with the paint and the whole thing. And Chris, I know you got some questions about it because we are just floored that as conservative and as old school a guy as Vern Gagne was, that he would go along with this racist angle. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, what was, when you first heard about this idea, Derrick, I mean, was that something that, like, were you okay with it? Was it something that you were, even though you were friends with, Ed outside the ring, I mean, in terms of like putting this in front of the crowd, what was your reaction when this idea was first thrown your way?
I get asked that question. I don't, okay. I just, whatever they wanted. It didn't bother me. I don't like saying that kind of stuff, but my opinion was I was not attacking another race, I've answered this question before. I think one of the things that bothered me Ricky Rice and myself used to mimic the Iron Sheik. And so one day, we'd all laughing at it. So one day, Greg said, look, I want you guys to go on camera, and we'll have you guys work against the Sheiks. And I was more uncomfortable with that because Rick and I was saying racial thing towards Arab, which was to me a little uncomfortable. But me painting you black, because South Africa at that time was a bad place and sending you back, that's not really, in my opinion, a little racial. It's
right.
I'm gonna paint you black, send you to South Africa. But when we're saying stuff like we were saying or about the Iron Sheik and Adnan, I thought was a little more uncomfortable, I should say. But we did it and got up there and it looked funny. And the only thing that got me, we never ever wrestled those guys. Because I think before the angle got going, Kaz Iron Sheik went back to Atlanta, and someone told me, he's so funny. Someone told me the Sheik got on Atlanta's TV and thought he was wrestling us. So he was
he was cutting a promo.
He's saying on TV saying, so he was down Atlanta. Yeah, he was mentioning our names, and oh, he was so funny, man. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Hey,
I remember one time. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. You go ahead. Then I got a follow-up question.
I just remember one time we were cutting promos in Iron Sheik, and he was supposed to say AWA, but he kept saying AWWWA, AWWF. And Vernon Grayson Sheik, it's the AW. He never did get it right. He just said, forget it. Oh, he was so funny. And he'd do stuff, and you'd be on the ground laughing, and he'd look at you so serious, goes, what's so funny?
I want to ask you about the other Sheik too. That was going to be my follow-up question. I want to talk about Adnan Al-Kaissie a little bit because Adnan was a real character, and of course he came into Ropers and did some shows there, and got involved with you and Tommy Ferrara, and I remember he'd always be talking, Derrick Dukes, I'm going to take care of you, and he'd do all that. What kind of a relationship did you have with Adnan?
Well, I used to love riding with Adnan because he'd make a road trip because he'd tell all the stories, all the stories. I mean, he'd tell stories like about Pampero Firpo, Pepper Gomez, or the ribs they used to do on people. And it'd make the time go so fast riding with him. So he was so funny to wrestle against because whatever you did to him, if you barely touch him, he's going to scream and say, call you a stiff prick.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm going to barely hit you. You stiff prick, ouch. And he was fun to wrestle. I think I got Adnan mad at me. Well, I know I got him mad at me. I saw him a few years ago, and he the first time I did one. I saw you there, Mick, over in West St. Paul there at a show.
Sure.
And I saw Adnan. He acted like he didn't remember me. I go, why is he mad at me? And I was talking to his kid because his kid was so huge. Last time I saw his kids, they were little. We were at his house and he dined. He had a party. And so I was talking to his kid. He goes, my dad doesn't know. I says, oh, I don't know why he's. Then I remember why he's angry with me. It took me a while. And it was over a show that I did not show up for. because my pay kept dropping. And I go, yeah, my pay kept dropping. But I tell guys years later, I says, you guys be a professional. Don't handle your business like I've done to certain people by not showing up. Just tell them, look, if you're not going to pay me the right amount of money, I'm not going to show up. Don't just not show up. and because that's not the way to be a professional. That's not the way to do business. And I think I did. I think I might have done that twice. Being angry like that. I know guys that did a lot, but that's not what I would talk to guys in the years like, don't do anything like that. If you don't like your pace, look, I'm not coming, so don't use me.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
but Adnan was fun.
You know, you mentioned something about Adnan, and it got me remembering some of those shows at Ropers and Fridley. And Adnan, of course, at this point, he's kind of towards the end of his career. And to say that he didn't want to take a bump is kind of an understatement, because I remember I'd be calling the matches and Adnan would be in the corner and a guy would be giving him like forearm shots, and Adnan would like turn his shoulder and his back. He wouldn't even take a forearm shot to the sternum.
Nope.
Let him take a bump.
Man. It's time to get out of the ring at that point. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so but Mick, you're totally right. You couldn't hit him because he turned sideways, and so you'd be laughing, hitting him because he won't let you get nowhere near anything but his side of his shoulder. So in a battle royal, I would stay away from him because you can't get nothing done with him. You see? Yeah. So I ain't going over by you because making my stuff look weak. Yeah.
Oh, great! Great.
Mick, did you want to do some word association, or did you want me to ask?
See how big his...
Say again. Well,
Mick, did you see how big his kid was?
Oh my God! Massive. Yeah, he. And unfortunately, there was, some tragedy involved there. With his son. So Adnan he's not had an easy go of it by any stretch of the imagination. But boy, what a character! What an unbelievable character! Just real quick, Dukester, before, yeah.
What happened? What happened to his kid?
If you're talking about the older son, unfortunately, his older son. Khalil, I believe, he met an unfortunate end probably a couple years ago, and there was some overdosing involved, and unfortunately and sadly, Adnan lost his son. So, wait,
does he have two?
He had two sons.
So I think this is the. Okay, Mick, he was the one at the show in West St. Paul. That's not the one that passed, right?
I don't remember. I know that the larger of the two, I mean, he was really massive. He's had a big, huge bodybuilder type physique. He's the one that passed. So
no wonder he's not. He used to Facebook me all the time. I was wondering what happened to him. That's what happened. Oh
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, very, very sad. And it kind of did a number on Adnan, needless to say. So Adnan is kind of stepped away from things a little bit. The last time I saw him, I saw you the same day. Road Warrior Animal was there, and Mike Enos and Wayne Bloom and Adnan and the Baron and so on and so forth. But Adnan is just kind of keeping it quiet now. He's kind of taking it easy, and certainly one of the all-time greats. Just real quickly, we're going to finish up here, Dukester, by I want to throw a couple of names at you from guys that you worked with back in the day at Ropers and Fridley that actually had a connection with the AWA, and just kind of a lightning round kind of deal here. Just tell me in a couple of sentences your take on these guys as you remember them. First of all, talk about Sean Waltman, Lightning Kid.
Oh man, Sean, he was a great guy. Great talent. As we saw years later, man, how talented he was. I got to work with him. I think Dale had me work a championship match with him up in Moore where I turned the belt over to him.
Okay.
But yeah, he was just a great guy. I was good. Every time I would see him, I'd give him a hug. You know, when I was having tryouts with WWF, or just a great guy. Great guy.
You know, here's another way that you can measure time. When Sean broke in and he was working those shows at Ropers and Fridley, when he first started, he was 17 years old. And Sean just celebrated his 50th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
it is flying by. Let me run another name past you. A guy that I know you're very familiar with, our buddy Jerry Lynn.
You know, I was thinking about him. I talked to Jerry after Zink died. I bet I was on the phone with Jerry an hour and a half. So he he's got religion now as myself, religious. It was good talking to him. We talked about old stories and talked about some of the guys I worked with over in Europe and some of the encounters he had with some of the guys. But he was just him and Sean. Oh, you couldn't follow their matches. You know, they were so tremendous. You know that, Mick. They would go out there, and I remember one time Sean, I think Jerry said, "Oh, I'm going to die in the ring." Well, don't do that, you know. But they were so passionate, you know, heck of a workers, you know.
They absolutely love the business. Love the business. All right, here's another guy that I'm going to bring up from the past. And this, I'm sure, is nothing but great memories for you. Randy Gusto. Let's talk about Judge
Randy. Randy was another great guy. He was fun. I always had fun working with him. I don't know, you know, he was the real wrestler. I don't know, I figured someone could have did something with him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they could have done something. I've seen some of the guys come through the business. They could have did something. He was a great guy. I think he was a prison guard for many years. He's retired now, and I think Chi-Town told me he moved back up. Did he go back to North Dakota? I'm not sure.
One of the real characters I always used to just love interviewing Randy Gusto when he would do that judge gimmick on TV. Loved him. I'm going to throw one more at you. Talk a little bit about Brad Ringens.
Brad was another. I went to Brad's camp too and worked out with him, and just a great guy. And one of the things that I remember, and I just, it's funny you said, I just thought about this as I'm driving. I drive a truck for nowadays. I deliver van meter electrical parts all over the airport, everywhere. And I was thinking about this one time, and I was telling Brad how I keep getting hurt in the ring, and he goes, "You know, Derrick, most of that's your fault, because if you see something not coming at you right, you have to maneuver yourself and to prevent yourself from getting hurt." And I remember this incident because I was over there working against Carl. Carl's name over in Europe was Wallace. I think he was Pierre Levesque, or in the WWF.
Yep.
He had the patch over his eye.
Yes, yeah, sure.
So we're in a match, and he's going, "Derrick, have you ever took a moonsault?" No. So he slams me, but I think it wasn't his fault because I bounced, and then he got on a rope to do the moonsault. And as I'm looking up, his knees is coming right to my face, and I can see this in slow motion. The first thing I thought about is when Warlord crushed Animal's face with the Samoan drop. And I'm saying, this is all going through my mind. And I'm going, if I don't move, he's going to smash my face in. So right at the last second, I moved my neck up, moved up real quick, and he landed perfectly. But that keeps reminding of Brad all the time, because I remember him saying that if you see something cockeyed, you better fix it, because it's going to be your fault. And I love Brad, just the nicest guy. I've only seen him angry along with Baron. I only seen Baron angry one time and Brad. And Baron was angry because it was me, him, and Adnan going to some show we had to drive. But the guys we were all at the gym out there in Plymouth, and the guys were screwing around, and we needed to leave. And that's the first time I've seen Baron get angry. And I saw Brad angry up in Canada. And he was angry, I think, at Manny Fernandez for something. But that's the only time I've ever seen him angry. You know, just the nicest guy. You know, don't mess with him.
Oh my God!
I get the sense that Brad Riggins is definitely somebody that you don't want to mess with. Last question that I want to ask you, Derrick, is when it's all said and done. Nope. When it's all said and done, how do you want people to remember Derrick Dukes in the wrestling world?
Well, I consider myself, to be honest with you guys, as a showman. So I wanted to put on a show. You see, I was limited. I probably should have limited myself to certain things I did. But see, my all thing was I get the crowd before I get in the ring. So now I already got you. And some people don't understand that we are entertainers. This stuff is entertainment. And so you make your job harder if you don't get the people before you get in the ring. You know, some people can, some people don't have. You got people like Brody or App, they don't have to. Their style is so sadistic. They don't have to get the crowd going there, you know, because that's their gimmick, and they look wild, and you know what I mean. And some people I used to watch, and you know, they get in the ring and going, and the crowd's not doing anything. And I remember Mick said this. This is very true. Mick had to go after somebody on Facebook, but Mick is totally true about this. And he goes, you know, guys, if I didn't commentate on your match, and the crowd just saw your match on TV, they'd fall asleep. And he's right, because if some people just don't have it, and Mick used to cover for my horrible interviews. Oh my goodness. And he'd have to carry me when my first interviews were up there in Winnipeg, and I'd be holding on to Mick for dear life because I was clueless. But you have to be a show person, and there's some great workers, guys. I don't want to mention any names. Some of them are dead, but I watched him go around. This guy is just boring, and they're paying him this kind of money. I don't get it. But hey, if they got it, you know. But I was more or less a showman, you know, and I tried to put on a good show and make the people happy, you know. And that was just me, you know.
Hey, as you and I
high move.
We used to say all the time, you and I, AG. Remember? It was AG. All gimmick.
All gimmick. I'm all gimmick.
I love it. I love it. All gimmick. I love it.
Hey, I got one more.
Oh, wait. Man, can I tell you this quick story? Do you remember we were out in California, and I was wrestling Larry, and I think Zeus was wrestling Abby on that card. And Larry and I were our first match. And I think the time limit was 15 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever. And I kept getting out of the ring, getting the crowd, taking the microphone from you, like yelling, you know, calling Larry a crybaby. And finally, Rob Russell stands up and goes, Derrick, the match is only 15 minutes. You guys is 13 minutes. You're not even locked up yet.
Oh, oh God. See, I love that stuff. I just I live
Oh
for it.
my gosh.
I got
That's
one
funny.
more question, and here's the biggest question of them all, Dukes. And I've been waiting till the end of the show to throw this one at you. And we're going to go back 30 years again. I want to know, did you ever get even with Mark Gastineau?
It's so funny. Nick, someone I learned years later. I learned years later that they wanted that Vince was going to do something with that whole incident that we had.
Yes.
But Mark wanted to come in and work. If I heard this correctly, Mark wanted to come in and work on top with the guys he had not been trained. I don't know if that's true, if that happened, but yeah, I looked at that thing. I go, man, I wish I never would have did that, And people always ask me, hey, you think you could have beat him? And I tell them, dude, I wasn't. I've only got Ron Peterson trained me. I tell a story, but he only trained me a few times, a little bit in Blaine, a little bit in St. Paul. And but Mark trained a lot more. He probably would have knocked me out, But he was scared. His dad was scared that I wouldn't do the job. Because his dad told me, yeah, look, I appreciate you doing this for Mark, and you sure you don't have a problem with it? I go, look, I said, look, just don't worry about it. I'm not a boxer. I've had lessons, I could. And I've had a match and had sparring, but no, we'll be fine, But I wish I could have made money off it, because I was watching TV and I saw years later, I don't know, maybe 10 years on USA, they talked about it. They talked about a book that came out, and had never made any money.
and for the fans, the fans that aren't familiar with it, Mark Gastineau, former football player, decided he's going to get into pro boxing, and man, he was going to be the next big thing. And poor Dukes has to go in there and sell for Mark Gastineau. And I remember, Derrick, I remember this like it was yesterday, because right after that, or shortly after that, we went on the tour to Australia. And I remember saying to you, was the heat that bad back home after you took that back bump for Mark Gastineau that you had to go all the way to the other side of the world to get away from the heat?
Wait a minute, Mick. It got worse. So when I got to Australia, this is what happened. They started talking to me over there, and you know what I did? I said, that's not me. I have a twin brother. My twin brother did that. So when my brother calls me back up, well, Derrick, why'd you say that it was me? Yeah, he found out about my brother in Ohio. I said, dude, I had to get that off me because they wouldn't leave me alone. I said, I was over in Australia, and if I would have said it was me, they weren't going to leave me alone with it. They just kept asking and asking, and I finally lied and said it was my brother Norris who did that, and he wasn't too happy.
After 31 years, this is the first time I ever heard that. That is tremendous.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
Boy. Oh my gosh.
All right, Chris. I think that's about it, huh, Pally?
Oh man, like this, the last 2 weeks, you guys have they've been incredible. Like I just, when you think that the stories can't get any better, and I thought, the arc of everything too, like going into the Larry Cameron, I mean, that was I'm just sitting here just in awe of just the story and being put in that emotion, and the good and the bad. So Derrick, man, I appreciate this. This was a treat to get to finally meet you and to hear you reminisce, tell some of the stories with Mick, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again down the road.
Oh, I had a lot of fun. It was good seeing my old buddy Mixter, and it was great to meet you, Chris. I had a wonderful time talking about all the old stories. But Mick has aged us because, man, I can't believe Sean's 50 years old now.
Isn't that something?
Wow.
Isn't that
Wow.
crazy? Yeah, I know, buddy.
Yeah, he was just a kid.
Believe me, I know. Hey, before we let you go, I'm going to be in touch with you about the AWA reunion that I'm going to be putting together here, and I want you there, buddy.
Okay.
So, I'll let you know where and when. Got to have the Dukester there.
Okay. You got my number, right?
I have all 15, 20 numbers. I got your burner cell phones. I got everything. I got a book on you that's like the Chicago phone book, buddy.
I only got 2 numbers.
Yeah, you sure do. Yeah, all right.
2 numbers.
Dukester, take care of yourself, man.
You too. Okay, so Mick, I'll hear from you soon about that reunion, huh?
You sure will, bud.
Yep. Okay, yeah, you guys be safe. Take care now.
Take care of yourself.
All right, thanks, Derrick. All right, there he goes, Derrick Dukes. Man, that was good. That was good because we had initially started to do this in 1 episode, but I could tell quickly about 25 minutes in, like there was so much more meat on the bone, Mick, that we were able to get from him, and it was great. Like, great storyteller, and I really hope that you can work it out that he's one of the individuals that you can get at the reunion when eventually, whenever we're, not we, you, whenever you're able to get that thing together, because I think fans would love to see him.
He's going to be there, and I, just to follow up about Derrick Dukes, if you, for the people who paid close attention to this podcast the last 2 weeks, Derrick Dukes is a very thoughtful guy, and he remembers everything like it was yesterday. Like I said at the outset, had this guy been in another era, 10 years either way, Derrick Dukes would have been a megastar in this business. I mean, you can look at the New Day as an example.
Yeah.
I could certainly see the Dukester, being a part of that. On a personal level, as nice a guy as you would ever want to meet. And he
just seems genuine. I think that's the word. He seems genuine.
He is. And, we talked about him working at People Serving People, which was a program for the homeless back in the day.
Yeah.
That's what Derrick Dukes is all about. And, I'm very proud to call him a friend. And yes, we're going to get him for the AWA reunion.
Yeah. So I want to thank Derrick again for his time as well. Let's go ahead and get the final plugs out of the way here, Mick. I know we didn't do it last week because we kind of made the executive decision on the fly to turn it into 2 parts. That being said, that we didn't have the shout outs last week, but let's go ahead and give the shout outs this week.
To my buddy Dale Spear. Dale, a former broadcast colleague of mine here on the independent scene in the state of Minnesota. He's been in broadcasting for many, many years. He's had executive positions. He is a true sports fanatic, a great lover of old school professional wrestling, and one of my dearest friends and confidants. So shout out to Dale Spear.
All right. And once again, I'm going to give mine again to Brad Morrison. I think I gave him one a couple weeks ago, but continues to be very active on Twitter. So, Brad, again, for you, always one of the first ones to jump on any of the tweets and believe us, that is very much appreciated. That being said, Mick, kind of tell us what's going on with this reunion. You kind of vaguely mentioned it, an AWA reunion that you're currently in the process of working on. Time and a date still TBD?
Absolutely. And, logistically, a lot of, I can't even say a lot of the AWA guys don't live here anymore because there's not a lot of AWA guys left, which is really sad to say. Mm-hmm. But there are some in the area, in the general vicinity. They turned up the last time we did this reunion, and hopefully we can get them locked and loaded again. And if you're an old school wrestling fan and you realize, unlike some assholes out there on the internet, if you realize the importance of the AWA and you realize the scope and the territory, you're going to want to relive the days of yesteryear with the few guys that are left. So we will let you know right away where and when.
Not applicable to those outside the the tri-state area.
Yeah.
Not applicable to those outside of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Dakota.
Well, that was it. That was the end of it.
Pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, nothing else existed. I want to thank Soda Stick as well for the great AWA Unleashed swag. Go to sodastickco.com. Get a T-shirt, get a hoodie, then send a picture, and we'll get it on the show. Also, 7th Avenue Pizza. You can see the logo up there in the corner. Great frozen pizza, you guys. If you love frozen pizza, and believe me, I've got Body by Pizza. Highest quality, best tasting ingredients on the market. 7th Avenue Pizza.com. And as well, rate, subscribe, review, especially on YouTube. YouTube has a tendency to really be kind of where most people are taking a look at it. So take a look at it. And again, just YouTube, just subscribe, rate, review, just, help us grow, and go to our AWA Unleashed fans page on Facebook. Brian put it together. Jeremy does a great job of moderating. Mick's on there. I'm on there, and a great job by that. So, Mick, the last 2 weeks have been fun, and we're still ramping up. We've still got a lot of stuff in the can. It's pretty unbelievable, kind of how we don't really know like what the topic's going to be from week to week. Sometimes I'd like to be able to promote it, but at the same time, we've got so many things that are fluid. I mean, they say cards subject to change. We've got all these things that are happening. We just don't know in what order. And I don't think it's fair to put something out there and then have it change.
You know what? It's the world of wrestling. Like you said, program is subject to change. Yep. And, sometimes the surprise, like you said, we don't know until the very last minute sometimes. And you can tell. I mean, really, honestly, Chris,
it's not a gimmick. It's not a gimmick.
We don't know our ass from a hole in the ground, 9 times out of 10, but we come out here and we wing it, So yeah, we'll continue to do that. That's what we're all about.